Welcome to Echoes Untold, the channel where we uncover history's strangest mysteries, unsolved cases, and forgotten whispers from the past. Today, we delve into a chilling disappearance that has puzzled investigators, conspiracy theorists, and families for nearly 8 decades, the case of the Sodder children. Join us as we unravel the baffling events of Christmas Eve, 1945, and the decades of unanswered questions that followed. This is Echoes Untold, where history whispers and we listen. It was a cold Christmas Eve in 1945, and the Sodder family, George and Jennie, along with their 10 children, were settling in for the night in their Fayetteville, West Virginia home. The air was filled with holiday cheer, and the younger children had been allowed to stay up past their bedtime to play with the new toys their older sister Marion had brought home as gifts. By 12:30 a.m., Jennie Sodder, the mother, was ready to retire for the night. She ushered the younger children to bed, unaware that this would be the last time she would see them. She was woken by the sound of something hitting the roof, followed by a rolling noise. A few moments later, the house was ablaze. George and Jennie, along with 4 of their children, escaped the inferno. But 5, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jennie, and Betty were still inside. George tried desperately to reach them, but was met with insurmountable obstacles. The fire raged through the house, reducing it to ashes in less than an hour. And when the flames died down, the true mystery began. The most baffling detail about the tragedy was that no remains of the 5 children were ever found. Despite an extensive search through the wreckage, not a single bone, skull, or fragment of their bodies was discovered. Fire investigators initially suggested that the flames had been intense enough to cremate the children entirely. However, experts argued against this, noting that even in fires burning at extreme temperatures for prolonged periods, bones typically remain. Jennie Sodder, unconvinced by the official explanation, conducted her own experiments. She burned animal bones in a similar fire, but each time, the bones remained intact. Further supporting her skepticism, a local crematorium operator confirmed that human bones remain even after being subjected to 2,000 Fahrenheit heat for hours, far longer than the Sodder house fire had lasted. If the fire had not consumed their bodies, then where were the children? The Sodders had noticed unusual occurrences in the weeks leading up to the fire. A stranger had come to the house trying to sell life insurance to George. When George declined, the man allegedly warned, "Your house will go up in smoke, and your children will be destroyed." The ominous remark seemed connected to George's outspoken criticism of Benito Mussolini, leading some to believe that his anti-fascist views had made him enemies within the Italian immigrant community. Adding to the suspicion, their telephone line had been cut, preventing them from calling for help. The family's ladder, usually propped against the house, was missing, and George's trucks, which he tried to use to reach the children, inexplicably refused to start, despite having worked fine earlier that day. And George's car, which he tried to use to reach the children, inexplicably refused to start, despite having worked fine earlier that day. Then there was the strange sound Jennie had heard just before the fire started, a sound she would later describe as something like a soft thud. Could someone have deliberately set fire to the Sodder home? As years passed, rumors and theories emerged about what had really happened to the missing children. The Sodders received multiple reports of possible sightings. A woman working at a Charleston hotel claimed to have seen the children with 2 unidentified men and women. The group allegedly checked in late at night and acted nervous. Another witness, a bus driver traveling through Fayetteville that night, saw people throwing what looked like fireballs onto the Sodder house. Could this explain the strange object Jennie had heard and later found? In 1950, a woman claimed to have seen the children in Florida, accompanied by suspicious adults. However, no tangible evidence was found to confirm these reports. Then, in 1968, more than 2 decades after the fire, Jennie received an unmarked envelope. In the mail inside was a photograph of a young man bearing a striking resemblance to her missing son, Louis. The Sodders hired a private investigator to trace the sender, but the investigator vanished without a trace. The trail went cold, leaving the family with more questions than answers. The Sodders never stopped looking for their children. They put up billboards along roadsides with their pictures, wrote letters to law enforcement agencies, and even sought help from the FBI. But every lead either turned into a dead end or was dismissed by authorities. George Sodder passed away in 1969, never knowing what happened to his children. Jennie continued to wear black in mourning for the rest of her life, and the family's remaining children carried on the search. But with each passing year, the chances of finding the missing Sodder children grew slimmer. Today, nearly 80 years later, the case remains unsolved. The answers may forever remain buried beneath the ashes of that Christmas Eve. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most perplexing unsolved mysteries, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Echoes Untold, where history whispers and we listen. Fact-check note. This video is based on historical records, investigative reports, and expert opinions. Primary sources include Fayetteville Fire Department records, interviews with surviving Sodder family members, and various newspaper reports, including the Charleston Gazette, the Fayette Tribune, and archival FBI case files. Stay curious, stay questioning, and until next time, keep listening to history's whispers.